most biggest problem that we have is that we are depressed with our lives. So we don't have hopes. We're not excited about our lives. That's why I think
Dude, talk to me about that. So how do people flip that around?
You have to take a look at life in a different perspective. That's why I'm teaching. For example, one of in my seminars, I take a lot of questions, and it was thousands of people. So in the back, so I couldn't really see the person who asked me a question, and she said, "I'm too old," and she sounded very young, and I can't really see. How old are you? And she said, "I'm 23," and everybody's like, "Ooh," and then she said, "I'm the oldest person in college. Everybody's like 19, 20, and I'm an old grandmother." It's like people are laughing, and she felt so old, and she's so out of date. And then I realized that I don't know how old you are, but you're 35, 45, 55, 25, or 5. You are the oldest in your life, right? So I heard a 7-year-old boy saying, "Oh, I'm getting old," So you feel oldest at your age. And from your future, you are the youngest, looking back 10 years from now. So you are the oldest and youngest at the same time. So some people start old. So don't compare with other people. Some people start young and then successful in their 30s and 40s, and they collapse in their 50s. So don't compare yourself with other people. Just look at yourself and focus yourself. And if you focus on who you are and what will come out of your life, and the best thing I can give you is I want you to be curious about your life. What is inside me that is going to be turned into money or turn into something that will please and entertain so many people. And it could be your writing, could be your cooking, could be something else. For me, it was speaking and writing. I never knew I could write and I could speak until I was 33 or 4 when I started writing. So you'll be surprised by yourself. I was surprised at myself. Like, I didn't know I could write and speak. So
it's interesting. There's a few things in here that I want to try to pull apart. So one is Peter Thiel talks about competition being for suckers. And he says, you want to go somewhere where there's no competition. And you've talked about if you identify one gift, you might not be unique. Maybe there are a lot of people that share that gift. And then you said, but if you can find 2 or 3 gifts and you put them together, then you may be one of the only. And so you've said the gifts that you had that you've taken the time to polish are you can write, you can speak, and you consider yourself a healer. And you said, once I put them together, and if I misspeak how you define healer, let me know. But you're saying I help people heal their past traumas about money to change the story, the way that they think about it. And I thought, well, that's actually really interesting, and it does make you an incredibly unique voice. And when I was first looking at you and researching you for the show, it was like that puts him in this very unique category, unlike, because since the economy has taken the hit that it's taken, I've been trying to find people that have a really useful voice in finance to help the average person through this. I don't want to bring in high-level investors that are going to talk about gold and all that shit. It's like that does not help the average person get through what we're going through. So seeing you bring those 3 things together in this incredibly unique way, I think is interesting. So we've got that, the find your unique place. And then we've got this other concept you're talking about, which I think is insanely important. And I want to know if to you these end up coming together, which is people are depressed about their lives. And they're depressed about their lives because of how they look at it, the frame of reference, the story they're telling. So this is my mission. Like getting people to reframe their life is like what I think about day and night. So how do people, you obviously gave us what I'll call the tip of the iceberg just now in terms of how they can begin to reframe and get out, but that unique gift of turning yourself into sort of a unique commodity. Do you see these things coming together in any way?
Yes, I think you said it so beautifully. One of my favorite seminars I do, at least here, this is a retreat center I have, is reading your life script. That means
that you write yourself?
Read. Yes, or I don't know who wrote it, but definitely there is a life script when you look at your life, there are so many a series of events that shifted your life and also made who you are. And mostly in what I found is among all the negative events that you had, that your father was killed in war, or your parents got divorced, or you got sick when you were like 8 or 10. So among all these negative events, there is a seed of your life purpose. So if you find your life purpose, you will be very different forever, because once you know you are born to do, I mean, not like almost like enlightenment, but it's like a slight enlightenment. Wow, I think I was born with these, hardships because I think I'm meant to do this. I was I was brought up in this abusive environment. My father is wealthy, so he had money and fame, but we're miserable. So that's why that set me to this journey to find happiness, the quest for happiness and money that turned me who I am. And that's so I feel,
Can you give us a little background? The story with your dad, I think, is very, very interesting.
my father was a very successful accountant and consultant. So, but he was a very samurai type of guy. He never cries, he never just smiles, and just a very rigid guy. So I was in this environment where we knew we had money, but we didn't have the safety in our house. So I really wanted to know why people are messed up that way, and then why can't we cannot find peace and happiness in our family. So that was the real start of my life.
Talk to me about the time that you came home and found your dad crying.
Yeah.
That was super intense.
Yes. I think I was 8 or 9 years old when I came home, and I saw my father crying like a baby. He was really crying in kitchen. I was super surprised, and my mother took me aside and just explained what's going on. But I was in total shock because I've never seen my father or man crying. And my mother told me that my father's friend, not best friend, and his client committed suicide. And I sort of knew what suicide mean, but it's not only his life. He killed his entire family, and after he killed himself. We call it family suicide. And that was the first time I learned about the term family suicide. It was very particular in Japanese culture. In order to save his family from the disgrace of bankruptcy, he killed an entire family, and also he killed himself. And he came to my father a few days before to ask for a loan, and he had the money, but he didn't give it to him because the money he loans to his client, his friend, would go directly to loan sharks. So he was recommending to file bankruptcy, and after bankruptcy, he was going to give the money. The money can be used for the family. But he's a samurai guy, so he didn't tell him that he has the money. But he said, no, I'm not going to loan the money. So he regretted after the family suicide, and that really triggered him into going into alcohol. So killing the entire family because of money really scared me, gave me a lot of nightmares for days. Sometimes I still sometimes get that when I hear news that somebody lost jobs and millions of people losing jobs. So I'm feeling a little restless about what's going on. That's why I'm more inspired to help other people to find peace and happiness. But he really didn't recover from that, and he passed away 17 years ago. But I think my father's generation and my grandfather's generation, I feel like they're giving me powers and inspiration for me to share what I know.
What do you mean by that? You're saying in that trauma, in the way that they got caught up in it, that
Yes.
gives you the power to...
Yes, because I feel...
It's interesting, man. It's an interesting way to frame it.
Yeah, I feel so much pain around him, and I feel so much pain for my grandfather. who died when he was 42 or 3 because of the war. So this 3 generations of unhappiness and despair and anger and resentment is all kind of like cleaned in me, and also gets healed and transformed and become this incredible amount of energy to be able to support people. That's why I think my books have been sold millions of copies, because I love to help people who are in anxiety, fear, and resentment. Because in some area we are upset about not being fair, right? So, but unless we heal this pain that's inside, it's nothing to do with money. It's nothing to do with what's going on out there. It's nothing to do with politics. It's inside. It's the wounds and the money scars and all the generational blocks that have been handed down from our parents, and negative beliefs around money and about life and work. They're also handed down from our grandparents, right? So it's being a generational block. So if you can turn all the pain into life force energy, you feel this inspiration in you, that will keep you going. So otherwise, you have to shut them off.
Otherwise, you have to shut them off. What do you mean by that?
Because you don't want to do, I know a friend whose father is also alcoholic, and he doesn't want to remember any of his childhood. He doesn't want to just talk with his, father.
Either forget about it or you have to reframe it, and make it useful. That's very, very interesting. You've actually talked a lot about friends. Having a good friendship network is actually more valuable ultimately than having a lot of money. That is such an interesting reaction to your daughter. I did not expect that. What are some other elements of building friends? And then I think it will help people. Why is friendship more protective, maybe the right word, than money?
I always talk about how to melt money fear. I told them, I teach people, make friends, because they are the asset. They are the insurance for you when the economy breaks down. Everybody has a friend who can let you stay for a week or two. And I kind of like counted, just wrote down the names. Okay, he's good. This guy is maybe 2 weeks, and then I calculated more than 50 friends. And then I can stay one friend at 1 week, second week. And then after 52 friends, I can come back to my friend number 1 and say, it's been a year, how are you? So without any money, I can live forever. I have enough friends who can support me. So I have no fear on money because I know somebody will just take care of me. And the feeling, I have no debt, so I'm not in the near of, I don't plan to file bankruptcy, but even if I lose everything, I have so many friends and supporters who can help me. So whatever happens to me, I feel somebody is going to just catch me, protect me. So if you have that feeling that somebody will not let you fall, you feel safe. So it's not the government, it's not your insurance, it's not the money in the bank. It's your friends and people who care about you. And if you have complete trust in the future, you don't have to worry about money. People worry about money because they're worried about no money situation. And I have interviewed so many millionaires who happen to be in no money situation many times. And no money situation doesn't kill you. Worry about no money situation kills you. So
I think you'll have to explain to people the difference between no money and being actually afraid of the no money situation.
Yes.
What do you mean by that exactly?
So say you run out of money, cash, right? And then you cannot pay the rent, you have to get out of your apartment, and you say file bankruptcy, for example. So being in no money situation is not comfortable. I've never been in one because I've been very careful, but I've known people and friends who have been into a situation. They don't want to go back there again, but the experience didn't kill them. It's kind of depressing, but at the same time, once you lose everything, you realize that so many people are kind to you. One of my friends who filed bankruptcy on the night, he got a call from at least 5 friends who just say, why don't you come to my house, have an extra room? And then he just cried while he was on the phone. So people, when he was successful, he didn't care about his friends, right? He was so successful. But people are so obsessed, almost like obsession, have this obsession of making sure that there will not be in no money situations. That's why they're not taking risk and start their own businesses. That's why they're not leaving their jobs. That's why they're not leaving their husbands and wives, because they're so afraid that one day you'll be in this no money situation, which is like they're more afraid of no money situation than death. So I'm just teaching people no money situation is not, it could be a scary place, but that could be a great start for financial independence. So whenever I get an email saying I filed bankruptcy 2 days ago, I will send back an email saying, congratulations, you are in the starting point toward financial independence, because they are.
Yeah, I think that reaction is really, really powerful. And I've thought about, and you talk about this pretty openly, just because I am wealthy today does not mean that I'm going to be wealthy at 50.
Yes.
So especially now in an economy where something I could never have imagined is happening, you go, like nothing is forever.
Yes.
And one of the things, and this is bring it all back around to Zen, where what I found so intriguing about Buddhism was the revelation that life is suffering. And once you realize this is a game, so now I'm using my words. I don't know that any Buddhist would ever say what I'm about to say, but this was my interpretation of Buddhism. Once you realize that you're playing a game of neurochemistry, and when you suffer because you want something, or you're trying to keep up with the Joneses, or you have a negative story that you're telling yourself about your own self-worth because what your parents said to you, you're not worth the money, or they're shaming you for how you spend your money, or whatever the case, like whatever has happened to you, whatever wound you have, like people begin to get a sense of self that is about that wound. And so they're not feeling good, and they're trying everything they can to escape that. And it's like, okay, what is the sort of original progenerator of this sense of suffering? Desire, right? And so that Buddhist notion of desire gives birth to all of your suffering, and understanding like the notion of attachment, and that when you are obsessed with money, rule number 1, forget about money. Like if you really want to make progress, that notion is so critical for people to understand, to ask themselves, what is the physics of this situation? The physics of this situation is you're having a biological experience. Your brain is kicking off certain neurotransmitters and a cocktail of chemicals that makes you feel a certain way. Either that certain way feels good or that certain way feels bad. And really beginning to understand what's happening inside your mind is the very thing that manifests the good feeling or the bad feeling. Okay, well, great. If this isn't about external stimulus, if it's not about I have a lot of money and I feel good, I have little money and I feel bad, and it's what am I thinking and feeling inside myself and how much control do I have over that, like you really begin to understand. And I think that the way you think is only one part of the equation. I don't think that Wahei became, the Warren Buffett of Japan simply because he thought in positive ways. Mm-hmm. But until you get that part right, your behaviors just won't align with anything useful. That's what I found myself drawn to in your philosophy, is that notion of taking this very Zen approach of having those realizations about the way that this is a mental game.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. You said it so beautifully. And culture difference too. I've been interviewed by so many different people from different cultures. One of the most often asked questions in America is like, when I talk about money container, everybody's born with a certain size money container is what I say. And American people want to know, how can I make my money container bigger so I can be wealthy? So that is a typical question I get from North America. So it's a totally different approach. So it's not good or bad. But if you just totally shift, so I teach Japanese people more American way. Okay, you're okay. Don't be satisfied. Dream big. For North American people, maybe you don't need a big house. Maybe you don't need 3 cars. You could downsize and still find fulfillment in life too. So you have to really kind of like change perspectives. So that way you can really find out who you are, and without all the toys, you can be still happy. And I think that's what everybody is experiencing. Like, what do I?
Let me ask you that. I was literally going to ask you that question. So in researching you, I started thinking, what would I do if I lost all my money? Mm-hmm. How would I find the way that I think about it, how would I create a happy life? And I began to think about what are the things that cost very little money, but bring me an extraordinary amount of joy? What are those things for you?
I think, there are many B&B here. So I want to be hired by somebody in this, in the neighborhood. And then whoever comes in, I'll do the chores. And meanwhile, I have a little chat with them. And then I ask them a few questions, and then they get lit up and like, wow, gee, I want to go home and just start my something. So I just want to be like a old guy just sweeping floors and just have a friendly chat. Not as a famous person, just a regular guy, just exchanging ideas. And then after 30 minutes of friendly conversation, he or she feels so much lighter, more fun, and more joyful. And that's who I want to be. And I'm okay with a rice bowl and some fish or some vegetables.
I love that, man. That is fantastic. Where can people connect with you?
So I have not much information yet in English. You can find Google Ken, K-E-N, Honda, H-O-N-D as in the car, and kenhonda.com. Or I've been interviewed by somebody like you who are so beautiful. So there are some YouTube videos that are up. And I am creating many free content so how people can find gifts and all that. So I'm trying to translate I have stacks of books and also many work and a lot of fun stuff. So being translated into English.
I love it, man. Well, Ken, thank you so much for joining me on the show today. Really, really incredible. I think super powerful. And I hope that people will dive in and watch the videos, which I have done. They're fantastic. Read the book, Happy Money, fantastic.